I get asked questions about my car all the time on Facebook and YouTube. And today I got a really good question basically asking me what did it take to get the 606 going in my 123. So in this video, I'd like to just take a minute and go through my car and show you what I've done in the engine bay to transform this car into something that moves a little bit better. We'll go around the car counterclockwise and I'll try to point out things that I've done. Now this model is from 1977, so not all 123s are exactly the same. Some changes have been made, but I'll point out the differences from my 123 that I've made for the 606 and also between other 123s. So to begin with, the starter is no longer down here, nor is the alternator a two-wire alternator, and the AC is no longer on the passenger side. So again, going counterclockwise here, the starter is moved to the other side, so the wiring had to be moved. Didn't have to be changed, but it just needed to be moved. The alternator, you can see I am in the process of rewiring the car. So it's hard to tell from the back, but it's really kind of a one wire now. I took the leads coming off the 123 alternator, off the om617. It was diesel to begin with, and I combined those originally and ran it to the starter. Now that I've rewired it, of course, it's different. And this alternator, like the old one, has a lead for the charge light that comes on. So we have the starter, the alternator. As you can see here, there was an issue trying to fit a radiator hose in the water neck that comes off from the water pump. So I just went with an adjustable hose. I'm probably going to change this up. I might build one using donuts or something in steel or aluminum to try and get a nice cleaner fit rather than using this flexible thing. So the other thing here is this manifold. So on a 606 with a stock turbo, I have never had a stock turbo in here. I would imagine it would fit without an issue, and then you could just carry on and adapt the exhaust that's in place. But I did not ever run the stock turbo, so I don't know if it fits or not. My compound turbos now come up, and the lower, or the high pressure one, actually sits about here. So it's a little different setup for me. But I think it would fit fine. Now I have a video that I just put out that talks about my motor mount situation. This was my first welding project, not too proud of it. And really, I should have thought this through before I did it. So I'm going to take out the plate that I welded in here, and I'm going to move the 123 mount back. Now some forum posts, I think, say you can use a 124 arm with a spacer plate, but I'm going to go ahead and just build my own arm to sit on top of the stock mount. This mount is trashed, by the way. Okay, so other changes I've made here is a later model 123 radiator. I changed that so that I could add this reservoir. Before I was getting pretty hot. I wasn't overheating, but I was close. So I added a reservoir, which seemed to have made a huge difference. In addition, I added an electric fan. Now this got trashed because I had the motor fall into the radiator. But it was that in conjunction with the overflow tank kept my temperatures at a very reasonable level. Now, I do have enough clearance to run the stock 606 fan and clutch. That wasn't an issue. Of course, the fan shroud will not fit. It's just a different setup. And my piping, for a single turbo, it actually came down behind the alternator around the front to my Spearco intercooler. Now, if you're just using a stock 606, I would imagine that the stock intercooler would be fine for you. But in my case, I took this cross member that's behind here, and I sectioned it and closed it in so that I could get a higher or a bigger intercooler. Later model 123s actually had a plate that ran across. Mine does not have that. Okay, so from the intercooler now, coming around, there's a void down there below the injection pump, and that's where the new AC unit would go. So the AC on the 123 is on the other side, so you'd have to make appropriate plans to reroute the plumbing to come over here to your AC compressor. Additionally, you'd have to rewire it to come over on this side of the engine as well, but that should not be too difficult to do. Now up above you'll see the diesel make and pump. Very, very pleased with that. This pump is from an om603. So the 606 pump is electronic, while the 603 is mechanical. And of course I don't want to run any kind of engine management system, so mechanical pump is pretty critical. Working our way back up top here. For fuel filter, I'm actually running the 603 housing, not the 606 housing. The 606 housing, well, the stock configuration ran through a heater that's on the head. I'm pointing, it's right through there. You can't really see it too well. I've actually removed it and put a plate over it. But water running through the head, circulating, would heat up the fuel line, so you'd have warm fuel. Well, I live in Texas. My other major destination is Arizona, so we don't experience the cool climates, and we really don't need that. And to me, it's just another point of failure. Don't want it, so I got rid of it, and 603 came to the rescue. Now, if you'll notice here, I'm running the stock 123 om617 oil cooler, and I've thought about changing to an aftermarket cooler, but there is a lot of volume here, and it does its job. So I've just had some bungs welded on, and I'm running 10AN line. Now on the om606 down there, can't see because of the lighting, the oil lines coming out of the filter housing, I had cut those off and had bungs welded on as well. Now originally I ran Earl's blue street hose, and I got a nick in it and it just blew out. Oil went everywhere, so that's why we see steel braided. So it was a marginal price increase to get that hose, but it's very durable and very strong. So what you don't see here is my speed sensor. So under the manifold here, I have my custom linkage, which comes over to a throttle position sensor. And the throttle position sensor is required for the transmission computer. I've run Powertrain Technologies and I've run Olay's computers, and both require some kind of throttle position sensor. So I have another video, check it out. It goes through how to calculate the swing on the arm, and it shows you the mount that I made for the sensor. It's not difficult. Okay, as I mentioned, the starter is moved to this side. You can see the battery cable down there, so of course you'll need a longer cable. Other than that, there's not a lot of changes to the 606. Naturally, there's going to be some plumbing things with the intercooler piping, but for the most part, the wiring and everything, I've spelled out the changes. The big thing that's going to come into play is the transmission. My advice is, if you're going to go with the transmission, when you buy your 606 and it's going to be automatic, get your 722.6 transmission, because you'll need that bell housing. You'll also need the torque converter. If you just buy an aftermarket 7226 off eBay, it's not going to mate up unless it came from a diesel. In terms of computers, I would definitely go with Olay's. It's less expensive than Powertrain Technologies. It's also easier to set up. Unless you're going to go full race and you need all the configuration points that Powertrain Technologies offers, I wouldn't waste the time or the money. So I'm not going to get under the car to show you the transmission mount. Basically, I notched out the back of the transmission mount and just welded in a piece of flat bar that I bolt the 7226 transmission mount to. Now you also may need to change out the drive shaft yoke. It really depends on what you're going to do for a drive shaft. I have 2 adapter plates from Jags That Go, and then I have a custom drive shaft that I had made up, and I believe I have a video out there for that as well. I blew out a lot of flex plates and center bearings, and I didn't want to run the risk of a flex plate totally tearing out, so now it's a very sturdy installation on the drive shaft. So hopefully that answers your questions on the 606.
Thanks for watching.